What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, back with another Outriders video to bring to you, and today we're actually going to be looking at possibly the easiest build that you could possibly run when it comes to Eye of the Storm, especially if you're trying to do the Accolade where you complete it solo. Now, granted, this does use a version of a glitch that's involved using the Minigun and being able to play as a Technomancer, but even playing as like any of the other classes, this is possibly the easiest way to be able to set up. This is possibly the easiest to be able to kit yourself as well, because it doesn't really require anything specific. It doesn't really it obviously the way I've set it up to build is probably the way that's kind of min-max to be able to deal the most effective damage and obviously be able to take down Yagak as quickly as possible and obviously deal with all the enemies and all that, but when it comes to everything else, like the weapon mods and all that, you can, by all means, you can choose anything that you want to be able to run with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the build, we're going to get into some gameplay in the background as well, and I'm going to explain all the interactions, all the processes, and why I think this is possibly the easiest way to be able to complete Eye of the Storm, and hopefully this is something you enjoy. As always, make sure you drop a like and a subscribe, it really does help the channel out, and let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to give this a go with the camera as well as the gameplay and all the footage that you can see in the background. So hopefully this, hopefully if you prefer this kind of style of presentation, then just let me know and drop a comment in the comment section down below, and this will be something that we can sort going forward. So let's have a quick look in the inventory. So everything else that's going to be yellow is just because I've just purely came from an Eye of the Storm using this build, and it worked absolute wonders, and I had such a good time with this. Now, if we go into, let's look at the weapon mods that I'm planning to use at the moment, or the footage that's shown in the background, the reason why it kind of works. So the main interaction with this is using, what I've used in this is a Damascus Offering. Now the Damascus Offering comes with Claymore Torrents as standard, and I've also put Ultimate Storm Whip on there. And the reason why I've done that is because we are doing single points of damage. We're not using like a shotgun or anything like that to be able to inflict more than one instance of damage. So therefore, I feel like Ultimate Storm Whip is a bit more consistent, does a bit more damage compared to things like Shadow Comet. So, but by all means, do not take this as set in stone or anything like that. Feel free to experiment and just mess around with this. I am looking to be able to do something with maybe like Ultimate Damage Link at some point, but for the time being, this is purely how I've done my run, and I found great success with this, so feel free to experiment where possible. How this kind of interaction works is you don't want your Damascus Offering inside your inventory or inside your carryable weapons. So what I do is I go in with a Funeral Pyre, and the Funeral Pyre doesn't really matter too much, it can be any weapon whatsoever, but I do have Shadow Comet and Claymore Torrent on there just to be able to deal a bit of damage, just in case my minigun ever goes down, or if I ever chuck it on the floor to be able to get a little bit of burst of speed. I've got something to be able to survive the cooldown of that skill. So the Funeral Pyre is basically how I start off. When you activate the minigun, you'll technically have the Funeral Pyre, but it basically just wipes off all the mods. So when you hold out the minigun, you then want to pop into your inventory, like I've done. The weapon that's currently equipped, so obviously this one, the white line is showing that the Funeral Pyre is technically equipped, and then you want to swap that out for Damascus Offering, or the one that you've got with your weapon mods on. So if you do that, it then applies those weapon mods to every single shot of your minigun. So what you don't want to do is put your the weapon that you want to use in the second slot, because as you find out in the gameplay that's in the background, if you do that and you go to swap weapons, what it will do is it will chuck your minigun on the floor. So you have to wait for the full cooldown, and that's basically how that works. So yeah, so whatever you do, don't do that. If we go into the armor set, so this is all fully transmogs. This is one of my favourite transmogs in the whole game right now. So what we've done is we've gone for a 3-piece of the Borealis, and the reason why is we want to benefit from that 90% damage to frozen, and the reason why is because we are looking to use cryo turrets to be able to inflict all that freeze. So we've gone for twins, we've gone for Captain Hunter, just because this really does help out. That's obviously our main damage dealer right there, and Captain Hunter really helps with elites, which obviously Yagak is, as well as his Reavers. And having 2 cryo turrets definitely helps to be able to spread all that freeze and just makes it a bit more consistent for your Borealis. So I definitely go for that, and that definitely helps. I then go for a purple, just to be able to get some of my, granted a little bit of anomaly power. Status power is definitely preferable when it comes to this build, because status power inflicts affects how long your freeze actually stays up. And I've gone for Bang for Your Buck, activating the skill grants 100% extra ammo. And then I've gone for Massacre. Massacre doesn't really get used that much, so feel free to mess about with that mod. You can definitely put some other things on there, but I did it just in case like I actually do get a kill in the meantime, and it then means my cryo turrets are dealing a little bit more damage. So that one isn't necessarily a staple. You can definitely swap that out for something else. If we go from there to the waistcloth, so we've gone for increases activating the minigun gives us a 30% resistance piercing, and this affects our mods, which is brilliant. And I've also gone for freezing boost on there, just because we are planning to deal damage to frozen enemies, so therefore we're getting a nice multiplier right there. So with the gloves, we've gone for shatter to be able to deal another 25%, so we're now up to 40% before looking at the Borealis kind of set. And then breathe in to be able to reduce our fixing wave cooldown by 20%, because fixing wave will be the main way that we replace our ammo when it comes to using our minigun. And talking of replacing our minigun, or replenishing, Quartermaster is there, because obviously that's to be able to refill our magazine back up to full, so 320. And then we've also gone for Fortify, just to give us 187,000 armor when it comes to our minigun, because this makes us extremely tanky. This also allows us to be able to survive the infantry swap, so we actually do swap over our guns. And yeah, overall it's a really good mod. What I did see when it came to testing is the fact that your armor, your damage reduction will only go up to 85%, and I believe with this actually does give me the full. So if I activate my minigun, I've now got the full 85% because of how much armor I've got. Now there is a mod that I was testing out with Fixing Wave, which doubles your armor and gives you a 30% resistance, and even if you use that, my armor went over 600k at one point, but even then it still meant an 85% damage reduction, so you get basically no benefit whatsoever from that mod, so I'd highly recommend that you don't use both, use one or the other. But the one with the minigun is pretty much going to be staying active, so therefore that just feels a bit more preferable to me. If we go from there to our actual skills, so obviously we've got Cryo Turret to be able to inflict all that freeze, and it does also activate our capstone when it comes to the middle tree. We also have Fixing Wave, does the exact same thing, but Fixing Wave will also replenish our ammo and obviously give us a little bit of health back. And we've also got Tool of Destruction to be able to activate for the minigun. We go from there to the class tree. Overall, it's pretty standard when it comes to like a middle tree kind of minigun, but did make a couple of changes from the previous build that we did. So I've gone for bottom tree to be able to like bottom off the middle tree to be able to get like all the cooldowns and to also get like the bonus damage to frozen enemies and all that kind of thing. I picked up Exposing Frost and Marked for Execution because those multipliers do actually make a difference when it comes to inflicting damage with our mods. And then obviously got all the way to the end. You technically don't need to get to the end because the bonus in Anomaly Power doesn't really do much for you. So you can definitely take that away and put it into something like Skills Life Leech, give yourself a little bit of extra armor if you do fancy it. Just basically you can put it into a couple other places. You can put it into giving yourself some extra resistance, all that kind of good thing. So then the bottom tree was purely just picked up just to be able to give us a little bit of Anomaly Power, just to be able to help us out with the initial bullets that are going in between the mods. And we've also picked up another resistance piercing just to be able to, obviously for our mod damage, so it gives us a little bit of extra damage that way. So overall, how does this build actually handle? Well, it's probably as good as you're probably expecting it to be. The fact that we've got so much armor means that we're barely taking any damage, means we're taking a maximum of 15% of the initial damage that we would have been taking compared to something like a squishy Technomancer, when you've probably got armor that's going to be around about like 50, 60k before you start stacking anything else. So you will be definitely tanky. Obviously your skills will be activating your intrinsic life steal, so therefore you're actually consistently healing yourself back up. Basically, as soon as you've got this set up and it's ready to go, with like setup with all the mods and all that kind of good stuff, then you're absolutely fine. You'll be laughing your way through, and the fact that you've got a Fixing Wave on top of that, just in case something goes a bit wrong, and also just don't feel free to be able to use Fixing Wave whenever it comes off cooldown, because you've got enough bullets in your minigun to be able to. You can survive basically the whole cooldown. You can just hold down the trigger and you'll be absolutely fine. And basically by the time the cooldown comes back, you still won't have expended all your ammo. So don't feel free to be able to do that. Chuck your Cryo Turrets out whenever you feel ready. Like I said, the middle like capstone for the middle tree doesn't really kind of like factor into it too much, because the bonus in Anomaly Power and the bonus in weapon damage isn't going to be affecting your mods, and the mod damage is pretty much basically the main source of damage that you're actually inflicting. So just feel free to chuck out cryo whenever they get destroyed, or if you want to be able to get them to refocus on new targets. So I found that the most effective way to be able to freeze Yagak when it came to my gameplay was actually from my melee, because he will get in close range with you. He will basically like come straight up to your face. So feel free to do a quick melee, and he kind of seems to get frozen from that quite easily. So definitely feel free to take advantage of that. But by the time you've actually made a little bit of space, I found that I was actually doing a little bit more damage when it came to that. So you know, I understand you won't be able to run away. You definitely will be kind of like walking around like a turtle. But if you can get a bit of space, if you can take some enemies on before they get close, you'll actually see a little bit more of like a bonus when it comes to it. So overall, is this possibly the best way to be able to run a Technomancer when it comes to Eye of the Storm? Now, it's not going to be the quickest way. It's not going to be taking any kind of like titles away from all those kind of like Technomancers that have been in speedruns all this time when it comes to Eye of the Storm. But it is going to be the easiest way to be able to get it done. And I do genuinely feel like this is probably the best way that if any of the community are actually looking out to be able to do any kind of like Eye of the Storm runs by themselves, to be able to grab some extra gear, to be able to obviously get that choice between the three, to be able to obviously complete the accolades, all that kind of thing. I do think this is probably the best build to be able to go for it right now. I used to think it was actually a Devastator, and Devastators were quite mobile, but obviously they don't have like a quick skill that just heals them just like that. And I do think that Minigun Technomancer, especially when you use the mods to be able to deal damage, you are able to deal damage. You are actually technically more tankier than a Devastator in some cases, and overall I just think it's actually the best way to be able to deal with everything. You don't have to worry about anything too much. You can use your minigun to be able to deal with the orbs, just in case you actually fancy getting rid of some of those, unlike Devastators, who actually have to do some shooting damage because their skills won't affect the orbs whatsoever. And yeah, like I said, it's just overall it's a really consistent way to be able to kill Yagak, and it's possibly going to be my main way to be able to do some more Eye of the Storms, just in case there is actually a little bit more gear that I'm looking for. So that's pretty much the video. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learned something useful with myself. If you did, please make sure you drop a like and a subscribe. It really does mean the world to us, and it really does help the channel out. I hope you've enjoyed the little camera section that I've been doing for this video, and if you did, make sure you drop a comment in the comment section down below, and it just really kind of reinforces to me that this is something that you'd be looking for. I've been finding a way to be able to get like the camera involved in this a little bit more. To be able to get this room pretty much set up to be able to do something like this, so it doesn't just look like a bedroom. You know, I'm obviously now a proper gamer with the fact that I have some nano leaf set up on the side. So overall, yeah, it's happy Christmas to me, by the way. But yeah, this is hopefully this is something you enjoy, and thank you all so much for the support that you've given us this year, and it really does mean the world to us. It's genuine from the bottom of my heart, from me and the other two guys. It really does mean the world, and hopefully 2022 is going to be such a great year as well. As always, that just leaves me to say thank you so much to the Babylonian family. They've paid the subscription to ourselves, and if you want to get involved with that, make sure you click that join button that's found right next to the subscribe button. It is literally just as simple as 99p a month, and it really just goes straight back into the channel. It really just helps us out and be able to make some content that's just like this. As always, keep yourself safe, keep yourself well, and I'll see you all on that next video.